The evening sun dipped low behind the sugarcane fields, painting the sky in a tired orange hue. Amir sat outside his dera, sipping lukewarm tea from a steel cup, listening to the hum of crickets rise with the twilight. The land around him was silent, the kind of silence that makes one aware of every breath, and of every emptiness within. He had lived alone for years now, far from the chatter of the town and the noise of family obligations. Work, sleep, and the quiet ache of solitude were all he knew. Across the narrow dirt path lived Faisal, his young neighbor. A simple boy in his early 20s, Faisal worked odd jobs around the village, fixing motors, carrying supplies, tending to animals. There was something open and kind about him, something that made people trust him easily. Amir often saw him pass by, sometimes stopping to greet with a soft smile, sometimes just waving from a distance. For reasons Amir couldn't explain, those brief encounters stayed with him longer than they should have. One evening, as Amir was returning from the market, he saw Faisal struggling with a broken bicycle chain. Without thinking, he stopped to help. They worked quietly, the air filled with the faint smell of oil and dust. When the chain finally clicked into place, Faisal looked up, his eyes bright with gratitude. "Thank you, Bai," he said with genuine warmth. "You always help everyone." Amir brushed it off with a smile. "It's nothing. You'd have done the same for me." That simple moment lingered in Amir's mind long after. There was no reason for it to, yet it did. That smile, that easy thankfulness, had left a mark deeper than he was willing to admit. In the days that followed, Amir found excuses to talk to him, lending him tools, offering water, sometimes just chatting about the weather. Faisal was always polite, always respectful, yet his tone carried a faint playfulness that made Amir feel noticed. It was a feeling he hadn't known for years. The truth was, Amir's life had grown painfully predictable. The farm kept him busy, but not fulfilled. His nights were long and quiet, his bed cold. Faisal's presence, his laughter, his open innocence, stirred something in him that he tried to suppress. Desire was a dangerous thing, especially one that had no name in his world, no place in his village. One night, after dinner, Amir found himself standing outside again, staring across the fields toward Faisal's small house. The lamp inside flickered, the shadow of the boy moved lightly across the curtain. The air was still, heavy with heat and memory. It was then that an idea formed, one that both frightened and excited him. The next day, as Faisal passed by on his way back from work, Amir called out to him. "Faisal, stop by later," he said casually. "I need to talk to you about something." Faisal nodded without hesitation. "Of course, bye. After dinner?" "Yes," Amir replied, trying to sound indifferent. "After dinner." That evening, Amir cleaned the dera as though expecting a guest of honor. He spread a clean sheet on the charpoy, lit a small lantern, and brewed tea. The preparation steadied him, gave him something to do with the restlessness churning inside. When Faisal arrived, he looked tired but cheerful. "Salam, Bai," he said, stepping inside with the shy ease of someone familiar yet cautious. They sat together, the soft hiss of the lantern filling the silence. Amir reached into his pocket and pulled out a few folded notes. "I know you've been working hard," he said. "Take this. It's nothing much, but maybe it'll help a little." Faisal hesitated, eyes wide. "No, Bai, I can't, please," Amir interrupted gently. "You've helped me enough times. Think of it as a small thank you." For a moment, Faisal just looked at him, that same open, unguarded look Amir had seen before. Then, slowly, he accepted the money, smiling with boyish gratitude. "You're too kind," he said softly. Something shifted in the air then, not something visible, but something deeply felt. The gratitude in Faisal's eyes was warm, almost tender. Amir's heart beat faster. He told himself it was nothing, that kindness often leads to moments like this. Yet deep down, he knew that the night had begun to change its color. As Faisal left a while later, Amir stood by the door, watching him walk away under the moonlight. The silver light caught the edges of his figure, turning him almost dreamlike. Amir exhaled, long and heavy. Somewhere within, guilt flickered, but so did an anticipation he couldn't explain. He knew something had started that evening, quietly, invisibly, and though the night returned to silence, Amir's heart did not. That he went to bed knowing he would see Faisal again, and that the next meeting would not be like the last. The next evening arrived slower than usual, the sky dimming under a layer of soft clouds. Amir spent the entire day pretending to be busy, watering plants that didn't need water, checking the generator twice, cleaning already polished cups. His mind wasn't on chores, it was caught between guilt and an unexplainable pull that felt stronger with each passing hour. That he didn't plan to invite Faisal again. At least, that's what he kept telling himself. But when he saw the boy walking back from the bazaar with tired eyes and dust-covered hands, the words slipped out before thought could stop them. "Faisal," he called out. "Come in for tea." Faisal smiled, setting his bag down by the door. "Again, bye. You'll spoil me." Amir chuckled. "It's just tea, not a feast. Sit, I'll make it." Inside, the lantern's dim glow painted the mud walls with soft gold. The air was thick with the smell of cardamom and rain-soaked earth drifting through the open window. They sat together on the charpoy, cups in hand, the quiet between them strangely comfortable. "So," Amir began, after a moment, "did the money help?" Faisal nodded gratefully. "Yes, bye. My mother needed medicine. You helped more than you know." Amir smiled, a warmth blooming inside him that had nothing to do with tea. "I'm glad." For a while, they just talked. About work, about crops, about the kind of life that seemed to pass people by. Amir listened closely, to Faisal's laughter, his pauses, his occasional sighs. Every word drew them closer, every silence hung heavier. Then, unexpectedly, Faisal grew quiet. He looked down at his hands, turning the empty cup slowly. "Bye, people in the village talk a lot, don't they?" Amir frowned lightly. "They always do." "Why?" Faisal hesitated, his voice softer now. "They think I come here too often. They say you're different." Amir's throat tightened. "And what do you think?" Faisal's gaze met his, unguarded, searching. "I think you're kind. Maybe a little lonely." The words hit deeper than Amir expected. He looked away, his heartbeat rising. The truth of it hung between them like a secret neither had chosen but both felt. "I don't mind what people say," Amir said finally, his voice low. "Sometimes it's better to be understood by one person than approved by everyone else." Faisal didn't respond right away. Then, quietly, he moved closer, just enough for Amir to feel his presence. It wasn't a bold gesture, just a subtle shift that changed everything. Outside, a wind stirred through the trees. Inside, time seemed to pause. Amir wanted to move, to step back, to end this before it began, but the longing was too deep. Loneliness had built walls around his heart for years. Now, Faisal's nearness broke them down with terrifying gentleness. "I should go," Faisal murmured after a moment, though he didn't stand. Amir's voice barely rose above a whisper. "Stay a little longer. It's still early." Faisal looked at him, uncertain but not afraid. His eyes held something new, a quiet understanding, maybe even curiosity. Amir reached for the teapot, his hand brushing Faisal's wrist by accident. The contact was small, but it sent a ripple through both of them. Faisal didn't pull away. Instead, he looked at Amir as if seeing him differently for the first time, not as an older man, not as a neighbor, but as someone human, flawed, and longing. No one spoke. The air grew heavier, the silence now thick with meaning. Amir finally said, "You've got a kind heart, Faisal. You remind me what it feels like to be seen." Faisal's voice came out soft. "And you remind me what it feels like to be cared for." Those words broke whatever thin thread had been holding Amir's restraint. He didn't move closer, didn't reach out, he simply sat there, feeling the pulse of a moment that would change both their lives. The world outside vanished, the lantern flickered like a heartbeat. What followed wasn't spoken, nor could it be easily named. It wasn't a choice made out of lust, nor an act born of need. It was something quiet and undeniable, the meeting of two silences, two aching hearts that found warmth in each other for the first time. When the wind outside died down, the night felt fuller, deeper, almost sacred. Faisal stayed longer than he planned. And when he finally rose to leave, the look they exchanged said everything words could not, a mix of confusion, relief, and something dangerously close to tenderness. As Amir watched him disappear into the soft darkness beyond the gate, he felt both lighter and heavier. What had begun as a gesture of kindness had turned into something far more intimate, far more forbidden. The night around him was silent again, but inside, something had awakened. Amir sat back on the charpoy, staring at the faint glow of the lantern, realizing that nothing between them would ever be quite the same again. Morning crept in softly, its light pale and unsure, like a secret afraid to be seen. The rooster crowed somewhere beyond the fields, and Amir stirred from a restless sleep. His dura smelled faintly of dust and tea, ordinary things that now felt strange, as though the world had changed overnight. Faisal was gone. The charpoy beside him was empty, the sheet slightly rumpled. Amir sat up slowly, the memory of the night returning in fragments, the quiet, the closeness, the way silence had become something living between them. His chest ached with both sweetness and shame. That he washed his face, hoping the cold water would clear his thoughts. But nothing washed away the feeling that lingered inside him, not quite regret, not quite joy. It was something in between, something nameless. He had crossed a line he once swore he never would. And yet, it hadn't felt wrong in the moment. It had felt human. Outside, the sun rose higher, gold spilling across the fields. Amir went about his day as usual, feeding the animals, checking the pump, pretending everything was the same. But the world around him seemed quieter now, as if it was listening. Every sound, every shadow carried a memory. By afternoon, whispers had begun to float around the village. Not accusations, not yet, but curious glances, hushed tones. Amir knew how fast stories traveled here, how cruel they could become. The thought made his stomach tighten. That evening, as he sat outside again, Faisal appeared at the edge of the path. His steps were hesitant, his expression unreadable. For a heartbeat, Amir thought he wouldn't come any closer. But then Faisal smiled, small, unsure, but real. Assalamu alaikum, bye, he said, his voice soft. Amir's chest loosened a little. Wa alaikum salam. Come, sit. Faisal hesitated, then sat beside him on the same old charpoy. For a long time, neither spoke. The crickets began their song again, filling the pauses between unspoken words. Finally, Amir said quietly, "You didn't have to come." Faisal shook his head. "I wanted to. I was thinking about last night." Amir's gaze dropped. "So was I." There was no anger in Faisal's voice when he spoke next, only calm honesty. "You were kind to me. I know what people might say if they found out. But I don't feel sorry for anything. I was happy." The words hit Amir like a wave, unexpected, soft, but overwhelming. He looked up at Faisal, seeing in his eyes not confusion or guilt, but clarity. "Still," Amir said slowly, "some things are better kept quiet. Not because they're shameful, but because the world wouldn't understand." Faisal nodded. "I know. The world always finds a reason to hate what it can't explain." The sky darkened, the first stars flickering awake. They sat in silence, the kind that felt like understanding rather than distance. Amir finally asked, "Will you still come by sometimes?" Faisal smiled faintly. "If you'll have me." Amir managed a small laugh. "You'll always be welcome." When Faisal stood to leave, Amir didn't try to stop him. He only watched, as he had before, the young man walking away through the moonlight, his figure glowing silver against the fields. But this time, there was no ache of anticipation, only a quiet peace laced with melancholy. He knew what had happened between them couldn't be spoken aloud, and maybe it didn't need to be. Some truths live best in silence, not denied, just hidden safely in memory. Later that night, as Amir lay awake, he realized that what he'd found wasn't simply pleasure. It was connection, brief, fragile, but real. It had reminded him that even in loneliness, the heart still searches for warmth. And sometimes, it finds it where it shouldn't. That he smiled faintly in the dark, hearing the night whisper outside. Faisal would move on, live his life, maybe forget this ever happened. But Amir knew he never would. Not because of guilt, but because for one fleeting moment, he had been seen. That he whispered to himself, barely audibly, he walked away with the money, I stayed behind with the memory. The lantern's flame flickered low, and Amir closed his eyes. The night felt lighter now, still secret, still silent, but no longer lonely, and as the wind rustled through the fields beyond his dera, he understood that love, in whatever form it arrives, leaves behind both a wound and a warmth, and sometimes, that's enough.